Hello and welcome back to Just Between Us, the podcast for the girls who dare to dream big and live fully. I'm your host, Siobhan.
And I'm your host, Bre. And today we have a very, very, very special guest with us. She is actually part of She Thrives. And we are so excited to introduce you to her. Basically, she, for 8 or 9 years, ran her own business and just helped other women thrive, just as we have. And she wanted to be a part of a community and help grow and help more people. But at the same time, she herself struggles with PCOS. And that is essentially why we brought her on today, to share her story, to share the behind the scenes of what it's like to have PCOS and help you understand how you can also achieve your goals, see results, and manage it in the best possible way so you don't feel so stuck and frustrated all the time. So we are so excited to introduce you to Kat. Welcome. We're so happy to
Hello.
have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited. I'm excited to go more into the PCOS, but also just want to say that I love being a part of the She Thrives gang. It's the best thing ever.
Hell yeah, we love that. So I would love for you to kind of give us a little bit of a background in terms of when did you first find out that you had PCOS and what was the emotions that came with that? Because I know first having a diagnosis it's a little bit scary. It's a little bit like of a shock when you don't really understand what that actually means and how your life will then move forward and be affected. So tell us a little bit about the initial first kind of shock when everything kind of changed for you.
Yeah, so I had a multitude of the symptoms that you get with it because it's very much a combination of lots of physical things and the mental side of it. But I actually got diagnosed once I went traveling when I was 21, it will be. And I had cysts on my ovaries, which doesn't always mean that you have PCOS, actually. That's why it's changed the name, obviously, to PMOS. But I had an internal scan and was struggling with bleeding all the time. And basically, the cysts that I had were 10 centimeters and they were growing and hemorrhaging away. And that's when I got diagnosed, when I had my blood
That's
done.
huge.
Yeah. And then I also had this scan that kind of confirmed it because it was over quite a long period of time that I was having the cyst every time I had a cycle, which was like once or twice a year. I'd never had a regular one ever. Mine is definitely hereditary. Everyone in my family that's an older generation woman has the cysts. And so I knew it was coming, but it was when I was 21 and I had this scan and then went down the route of having my bloods done. I had all like the facial hair, the mental side of it as well, with like the food related eating disorder vibe I was already struggling with for years previous. And then at 21 was when I was diagnosed with it properly from a doctor. And that was from, like I say, the bloods confirmation and my adrenals I'd had tested as well. So the DHEA, which is what it elevates when you have PCOS. And then the cyst that I was having was so big. Like you have a surgery at 10 centimeters when you have that removed, because if you're pregnant as well, it can lead to miscarriage. So long story short, it was the internal scan from there that led to the diagnosis properly. But I would say I was struggling with the symptoms from as soon as I got my first ever cycle. And then obviously it's elevated through chronic stress. What the symptoms were exacerbated, I think, through my lifestyle choices, my environment, my poor diet, my lack of exercise, because I didn't start training or anything properly until after that, because that was kind of the push that I needed to be like, okay, I need to manage this, because the insulin resistance that your body's struggling with so bad with PCOS, I think, again, heightens the relationship you've got with food. Because if I eat straight carbs, which is where I think it's hard to not demonize them with when you've got PCOS, but you shouldn't really be eating them like straight on their own, because you get that blood sugar spike and then you feel like shit and brain fog. And then the symptoms, especially like the facial hair side of it, and skin tags you can get a lot with PCOS, is insulin related. It's like your body pushing it out basically in other ways through like skin growth and hair growth. So, but like I say, I've struggled since my first cycle with all of the symptoms. And then my environment and lifestyle just increased the chronic inflammation that basically I would say it's that. When somebody asks me what PMOS is, I'm like, it's just chronic inflammation, chronic stress. Mine's adrenal based. Sometimes it can be looking at the physical side of it with the ovarian cyst, but I had that as well. So yeah, that's the overview.
Just a quick side note. I didn't realize that like skin tags were a thing and a part of it.
Yeah, you usually have quite a lot. People don't really talk about it, but like I have a little one on my eye. I've had it for probably like 3 years. But yeah, it's to do with insulin, how your body facilitates that process, and it's something to do with yourself basically pushing out the how it can't take in the glucose properly, and it just leads to extra skin growth, which is skin tag.
Literally, I have so many, but my mum has them, and I think it
Oh,
has nothing to do with PCOS why I have them.
yeah,
But I call them my little meaties, and I like to just like play with them. You know how people like play with their
yeah.
hair? I literally twist. I've got them on my neck, and I twist them in my fingers sometimes. It's so it's so random.
You
But
can no, I get them. They are like they come up in weird places for people.
the
Mostly,
places that rub,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Like I say, the one on my eye is the one that I'm like, I really need that taken off because I don't want to get older and it's like there. So,
Just
just
dangling
start.
over your eye.
yeah. Like I just met my partner now, and when I first met him, I was like, I need to tell you something about myself that I need to wear off. This skin tag is here, and he's like, I didn't even notice it, but I can notice it. But yeah, it's just a little side symptom that you get from it.
Yeah, so interesting. I didn't know that either. I reckon there's so many symptoms though that unless you obviously go through the symptom or you have it, like anything that whether it's PCOS or even like with gut disorders, sometimes there's so many symptoms that you were like we wouldn't even correlate
Yeah.
to being something to do with that. For example, when I got intolerance tests and was told that I was lactose intolerant, the doctor was like, "Oh, do you have really bad brain fog or do you have really crazy mood swings sometimes?" And I was like, yeah, my partner will definitely tell you I have crazy mood swings.
I'm just a girl.
Yeah, don't we all? And she was like, yeah, having too much dairy when you're lactose intolerant can actually cause like almost like mental health issues. And I was like, what? That is not something that I would ever correlate. I think when you think of having a lactose or a dairy intolerance, we instantly think of it's to do with the gut or maybe bad skin or bloating or stuff like that. But you would never think a symptom is brain fog, memory problems. So I think it's really interesting when you then speak to different people who also experience different symptoms and
Well,
how many different ways one condition can show up for different people. I do think it's
yeah.
so interesting. Did you find that when you did get diagnosed that it helped you to understand more what was going on, or what did you feel in that moment and then after that?
It was stressful anyway. Every month with the symptoms, they would increase. So, like the hair growth increases when I was meant to be having a normal menstrual cycle week. And when I got diagnosed, it was a bit of a relief, but also when they tell you if you just go on the pill or you get pregnant, then the symptoms will get better because we can't actually cure it. So I would say it made me feel even more stressed. Then after that, I was kind of like also single. So I was like, can't solve one of the solutions that you give me. And then I didn't want to go on birth control because I had a really bad reaction to one of the mini pill that I took when I was younger. So I just felt a bit helpless. And then that's when I started researching a lot. And that kind of led me down a path with where I'm up to now in my career. But initially it was stress. And then already in that moment, because of how PCOS can, like I say, your relationship with food, I think a lot of the ED community, they talk about having PCOS symptoms. And I'm like, probably a lot of it is related to when your hormones are out of balance, how much you do rely on food as a bit of a crutch, and also your energy levels fluctuate in the way they were. So I really wanted to solve that part of it for me because I was a big foodie and I'd struggled with weight gain and weight loss. I was either really skinny and then gained like 20 kilos and lost it again. And I was struggling with trying to find a middle ground with it, but then not really realizing that the insulin resistant side of it was the biggest part that helped. And that was kind of where I went down the path of doing the nutrition course and figuring out how to pair my carbs properly and even just general exercise. So it was kind of the kickstart. But initially, I'm not gonna lie, I was just stressed. The first thing was diet, and then came the exercise. And then you learn about stress management because a big part of it is you can tick all them boxes with your health. But if it's from a place of obsessive or hate my body, then it wasn't sticking. So I needed to find work hard, rest hard approach. Because again, with the chronic stress side of it with PCOS, the symptoms are all exacerbated by you not finding that balance really, which I was struggling with so hard out the gate with training. I was like straight into training every single day, doing lots of cardio because I was reading a lot about how like improving my muscle mass would help with insulin resistance. So I was like, right, okay, I need to pack on as much muscle as possible to help with that. But then I was overtraining, burning out, taking a load of pre-workouts, just trying to like live this really healthy lifestyle and hope that it would help the symptoms, but it actually made it worse again because I was overtraining, underfueling, not resting enough, had no idea about like bookending my day with how I start my day and how I end it. just some emotional regulation was actually what I needed. That was like the cherry on top with PCOS for me. And still, it's like a constant journey with that. I think we're all guilty of not finding that like regulation and not prioritizing it. But yeah, it's like a pyramid with it, because you just get caught up in life, don't you, and trying to be busy and with work and family or showing up as a partner or whatever. So yeah, like I say, the initial was like, oh shit, I'm either gonna have to find a boyfriend or take the pill. And then
Impregnate me.
I was saying to my mom, I was like, no, the next man I meet is gonna have to have my baby.
He must. He
Yeah.
has no choice.
She was like, you're 21, Kat. You don't have a home, like your own home. I was like, okay, yeah, fair enough.
Pressure.
Yeah.
You know what I would love to, I guess, what's the word, petition for? I would love to petition for schools to like stop learning about things that I have never thought about since I was back in school, and actually learn about the human body in the way that it should. And I think males should also learn about it to a degree, maybe not to the same extent, but all the different conditions females have. Because if we were told in school, hey, you need to be strength training, you need to be nourishing your body, you need to be managing your stress, and this is how you can do it, and have the tools and be equipped and armed for the fact that life is stressful, life is full on. Imagine how much better the world would be, instead of like stressing out when you get a diagnosis and people neglecting their bodies. I think it would be the best thing to learn that, because it instills you at a young age, and people aren't like, no, I don't want to train, I can't be bothered. It's not about like a physical thing. Yes, of course, everyone wants to look hot. That's like, if you say you don't, you're lying to yourself. But the thing is, it's if everyone actually saw it from the health perspective, regardless of whether you have PCOS, endometriosis, I should say PMOS now, it just doesn't roll off the tongue the same way that
Not
PCOS does. Not at all. But yeah, I just wish that that was a thing, because it would save you from stressing and then being like, someone needs to actually impregnate me for me to be fixed, or go on like a band-aid fix. I guess for you, Kat, what would you say are maybe like the top 5 things that you do in terms of nutrition that are a non-negotiable when you do have PMOS?
Yeah. First one is regularly eating. It has to be manageable and realistic for everyone's schedule, but trying to not go long periods of time without eating, just because of how PCOS affects your energy levels with having not fueled up properly because of the insulin resistant side of it. Regular eating helps with my mood, digestion, and then the quality of my food as well is a big one. Actually, just going back to regular eating, because you're in a state of chronic stress anyway with PCOS, fasting is what stresses your body out more. So some people are like, oh, I'm trying to intermittent fast to lose body fat. But I'm like, if you have PMOS, you need to be thinking your body's in a state of fight or flight anyway. And fasting, it obviously has its research and evidence, but 100% I'm behind it doesn't align with someone that has PMOS. Like, it doesn't work for them. You need to be getting up, having a good quality, high protein brekkie, high fiber, whole food base, all that jazz, but just not going long periods of time without eating. Again, the food choices and the structure of my day with well-balanced meals like we do at She Thrives for the girls is just making sure that every macro is being hit. There's healthy fats, complex carbs. You're trying to limit UPFs. Avoiding naked carbs is what I like to say. I love having like a croissant and a piece of toast as much as anyone, but I can't, and it makes me feel terrible. I kind of like have a big crash. So I'd say that's the third one, if we say. Fourth one, protein, a big one. I know that that's the same for pretty much anyone's health and well-being journey, a priority that you've got to hit. But when you're strength training, it supports everything that you do in that end. And then the fifth one I would say is I try and it's kind of related to exercise as well, but I will always eat and then try and move after I've eaten for like 10, 15 minutes, just stand up, and that helps with my digestion again, because again, the chronic stress side of it slows down your ability to take in everything you're eating with PMOS. There's lots of research on it now that I don't digest as much protein as maybe you guys would with PMOS. It's like 60% it can be, just because everything's stressed. So nothing's working at optimal function. So that's why I regularly eating, not having huge, great big meals, because my digestion can't, it's trying to reduce over the overwhelm my body's already under with the food choices. But processed foods just aren't going to make me feel good. So I try and just stay not clear of them altogether, but it's just, I know how my body's going to respond from having ultra processed foods because of how my gut reacts. So yeah, the main one would be the regular eating, because I wasn't doing that initially when I started my health and fitness journey, especially when I'd lost a lot of weight and wanted to build muscle and improve my composition. I was eating hardly anything. I was just having like a protein shake and then broccoli and chicken, and when we all go down that rabbit hole, just eating chicken and greens every single day. Um, I'm feeling really tired, and like my recovery was really bad, and all my symptoms were getting worse, like the hair on my face and on my chin, and that's when my skin tags actually got a lot worse. So I would say the main one would be structure of your day with food, the quality of your food, and how you're structuring your meals so well balanced. You can't just be having naked carbs. It's not demonizing carbs at all. It's just that your body's different in PCOS with the elevated stress that it's under. So you have to pair it with other things that are going to help your body just basically chill out a bit when you're eating them. You still need them, of course, especially when you're training. But that was the biggest thing for me, because I kind of went down the bodybuilder route for a bit, and I was eating just like rice cakes and honey, and thought, God, my symptoms were getting worse again. I was training really well and had energy straight away, but then I just was feeling like it was making it worse. And that was when I kind of thought, right, I need to be more smart on how I pair my food choices. And then obviously the research and courses I've done helped me understand that a lot more. So yeah, they would be I think I did like 4 or 5 then tips.
The more the better, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's like the top 2 that I would say every single female who's gone through an eating disorder or had a bad relationship with food do, where you skip meals to try and save calories, and you kind of just like avoid eating for a prolonged period of times. The intermittent fasting route. I feel like for most females, intermittent fasting is one of those things that it's more harm than good at the end of the day. For female hormones. For men, it's amazing. But at the same time, it's like that's where the data goes wrong, right? It's like they've done so much data and research on men, but not so much on females. But the one takeaway from that is please stop skipping meals to save calories. It's going to do your body more harm than good. And the second thing is quality over quantity, essentially trying to get as much kind of food in as you possibly can when you're, I guess, dieting and in deficit phase, where we're like, okay, what are the lowest calorie foods with all the sugar, alcohols, and all the added things that are giving you volume, like the Jello, the light Jello, and like the sugar-free cordial, the like sugar-free lollies, all that sort of stuff. Whilst yes, it has no calories, it's also doing more harm than good. So eating whole foods, nourishing foods are going to benefit your body, essentially reducing that inflammation significantly, so you can actually function with what your optimal looks like, would you say?
I used to be one of them girls that would have a grenade bar for breakfast and be like, yes, I'm on it with my health and fitness. This is me being the best I can
Locked
be.
in.
And then having like the protein noodles for lunch, and then like a ready meal for dinner, and thinking, yeah, I'm absolutely smashing this gym thing. And then not really realizing that I even looked waterier. I felt like my training was all right. I was just like a low frequency, because I was doing low frequency things with the quality of my food. My sleep was whack. My digestion was whackers too, because I wasn't looking at the basic fundamentals of nutrition. So yeah, obviously if you're in a deficit, you're going to lose body fat, but I didn't feel good, and I would easily get bloated, which isn't normal. And I still didn't have a regular cycle, which is a really big sign with PCOS, because your body's really receptive to stress, and a big one is obviously your gut health. So that's how I knew something wasn't completely right. And again, my symptoms were still exacerbated by what I was doing. So the hair growth, brain fog, yeah, just all that stuff. So then you have to go through that phase, I think, with the protein bar era. I feel like we've all been through it. And then just sad day when I was realizing, yeah, this probably isn't what I should be doing. Like, what's that brand in Australia? I can't think what it's called. They have like all different funky flavors. I used to eat like 3 or 4 of them a day, thinking, yep, hit my protein target. Like white chocolate with rainbow sprinkles. Oh my God, yeah.
Yes, it was the Quest. Was it
That's
the
it, yeah.
Quest bars? Yes. My mum used to chop those up, put them in the microwave, and
Yeah.
fucking eat them like lollies.
Yeah.
Like, what?
I used to have like 2 of them with protein ice cream at night just before bed. Like, what am I? thinking now they're going to really help me, and no, definitely increasing the stress on my body before I'm about to go to sleep. Loads of sugar. I don't regret it because it taught me where I'm at now. They're the things that you think you're meant to eat, which is fair enough. Like you wouldn't think, oh, actually just pick up a pack of chicken and make some stir-fried veggies and a bit of brown rice or something. So kind of got lost in that for a bit initially before I was qualified, but I'm glad because I'm like, okay, realize how it makes you feel when you eat like that all the time. And it catches up with you and your body keeps score. It might not react straight away, and especially when you're younger, it's a bit slower to respond, I think. And but as you get older, you're more in tune, and you think, God, it does make me feel like shit. Actually, I'm not gonna choose to eat like that because of how it makes me feel. And obviously, you want to feel you look your best too. So yeah, that was a big learning curve. A sad day when I lost the protein bars, but.
My dessert, not the freaking dessert before bed.
Like, can you imagine now my body? That is so. I used to warm them up like your mum did. Like I would be trying to like blend them up. I just went down a whole route of trying to like get as many in as a day because I thought this is what I should be having. But yeah, especially because like I say, it's a chronic inflammation that you're in when you've got PMOS. So you've got to think about it as you need to work with your body. You're only just going to push your body further away from where it wants to already be. And a big part of that is your nutrition. Then there's obviously all the other aspects as well. But nutrition does hold a big key to that because your gut and brain are like, well, they say your gut and brain are like one, aren't they? What you eat is what you become and how you feel. So yeah, big learning curve.
I think what's crazy is most people is they walk into Woolies, they walk into Coles, and that's where they buy their protein powders, their healthy foods and things like that, and think that it is healthy because that's what's been advertised. And that's where the whole consensus of when everyone says, I've been eating healthy and I'm moving my body, I'm not seeing results. Eating healthy, as we all know, your definition is completely different what everyone else's definition. I can't. What?
You got
Speak. What everyone's definition is so different when you're not an expert and when you haven't gone through the phases of like that. People think they are eating healthy, and I don't deny that. They think that that is true. But the reality is, when you look at what they eat, we've all seen it before. The person that says, I'm eating healthy, and you look at their day and you're like, my God, no wonder why you're feeling the way you do. I'm so excited to change your whole fucking life and give you the energy we know you actually can. But I think that's where the whole I'm eating healthy and I'm moving my body, why am I not seeing results, comes to life for so many people. 95% of people I speak to say that. And I don't think that you're wrong in saying what you think is the truth, but it's wrong. It's wrong.
And it's wrong.
It's wrong. It comes down to the education, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. I always think it's funny as well because I feel like coaches, we're basically just people who previously have fucked up multiple times, and now we just teach people to not make the same mistakes that we did. We're like,
I love
did
that.
all of the trial and error for you so that you don't have to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, you probably want someone to hold your hand on the journey they're about to take if they've taken it themselves. You wouldn't go to a shitty dentist. You'd want someone that's got really good teeth. I feel like it's the same with coaching. You would want someone that's leading by example, especially with PCOS or just in general with your health and well-being. You're leading the way. And also there's certain things like obviously me talking about my journey. Some people have such different symptoms to me and have PMOS, but they look so different to me. Like usually a big symptom is hair loss. I've never had that. I have the opposite. Everything grows super fast on me, but some women lose all their hair. And so it's just different for everyone.
I think that also makes it kind of confusing for individuals as well to try and pinpoint what is going on with their own body, because if you look at the spectrum of symptoms, you can have two different people who have the complete opposite, and then as you're trying to kind of figure out what's going on with your own body, it becomes so confusing to try and be like, well, is it this, because this symptom doesn't really go with what Google is telling me is a symptom. Which, yeah, I totally appreciate at the start as well, where you were like, it was actually just really fucking stressful trying to figure it out.
Yeah, it made it worse for me. And also, if you're in a state of stress mentally, it transfers physically. So you're just in this vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Which is why I love, like you said, Bre, when somebody comes to me and they're like, I'm doing all this shit and nothing's working. And then I'm looking at it like, actually, if we just strip it right back, you have less to think about. And obviously, decision fatigue is a really real thing. Just removing that and just going at incremental, manageable steps with very basic fundamentals with your nutrition, with how you take care of yourself and your stress, it makes it so much easier. But initially, especially with PMOS, there's so much information out there. And like you say, one woman can look so different to the next. With PMOS, there's a bit of a myth that you should be really overweight and that you don't do any exercise and that you wouldn't be already trying to maybe live healthily. But again, everybody's different and it physically looks differently for everyone. So it's complicated. Like a big supplement that they recommend at the doctors if you don't get told to go on birth control or have a baby is a metformin, which is great, but a lot of the how it benefits your body can be helped through regular exercise and diet and quality of your food. Sleep hygiene is a massive one because PCOS usually tend to be a bit more anxious because of how your body's fluctuating based on energy and food intake. So yeah, and environment's a big one as well. Just managing your overall stress levels, which is really underrated. It's not glamorous and it can be a bit like holding a mirror up to the choices that you're making every day, but it's on you to make the choice. And I feel like I always say to people, why would you want to rely on tablets and all these supplements for the rest of your life when you could just do a bit of hard graft with being like, do I need to like walk more? Do I need to make more meal prep and take time for myself with just my basic habits and raising the standard? And I think it's super empowering, but it's a hard journey initially, but like I say, it's so worth it because I've never been one to want to rely on like metformin, and there's a few other things that they recommend medication wise. There's a time and a place for it, don't get me wrong, but like GHP1 is now big with PMOS ladies because you sometimes can struggle with food noise a lot. Again, there's probably cases where it's an important part if you're starting from a really, really high body fat percentage. But again, it's learning to sit with your feelings more. Why go on the jab straight away? Maybe you don't need to be dieting for fat loss right now. Maybe you should just look at your habits and then that will help with the food noise. And it's just that we all want a bit of a shortcut to things initially, but the long game and leveling up in yourself and your habits is so much more empowering and worth it. You feel so much better and look so much better. But that's why, yeah, I kind of went off on a tangent then because that's what I'm really passionate about. But it's just like
We love
that.
tangents. That's what we do here.
I just think it makes the biggest difference because we've all been there with wanting like a quick fix, especially when you're on a weight loss journey. So when I had that 20 kilos to lose, I was drinking, that booty stuff. I don't know if you guys had it.
Yeah.
Just for every meal, booty. What was I doing? Why would I do that? But I was in a place of not wanting to actually look at the reality of the choices I was making. And sitting with those feelings. So again, like I say, GHP1 is now a massive thing with PMOS, but you're still relying on something external, and you need to sit with hunger and also sit with how you manage your food intake, and you want to feel like you're in control. We're all mini control freaks in some way, even if you're super chill. I'd count myself as someone as a really chilled out person, but even I sometimes get a bit flustered if I'm feeling a bit hungry or get a bit hangry, and regulation of that is really important, and that stuff doesn't help you learn yourself and be able to sit with yourself and actually how you feel. I'm going a bit deep now, but it just really, especially with PMOS, because you're trying to regulate yourself so you can work with your body and help just bring everything a bit more down. And because you're running usually up here, a big PMOS thing is that you struggle with anxiety, and depression's now a big thing with PMOS because the ebbs and flows of your energy dipping throws a lot of women off. So when they're having a low, say they've not eaten well or not moved regularly, or they've had an emotional eating episode off the back of everything kind of coming to a head, then people get thrown off from it and kind of get in a bit of a cycle and feel stuck. So I really enjoy coaching. Someone coming to me and telling me they're doing all this stuff or how they're feeling out of control, and then just stripping it right back to the basics. And then they're like, oh, I actually feel better. I'm less stressed. Yeah, because you're not trying to take all these sups and meds and going about it that way and relying on that. And actually you're still struggling with food noise and still struggling with finding a manageable routine with exercise that suits you, and not looking at your friend that's doing this or doing the jab and they've lost loads of weight. It needs to be you cultivating that self-belief that you can look at yourself and your habits and your choices and be like, right, okay, it's all on my responsibility, which was, again, I found that like a hard learning curve, especially when I got diagnosed. I went down that route of trying to just do all the stuff that you buy into, but then I was very much like, Kat, you're a product of the choices that you make here, love. Like, come on, you can choose what you're eating, you can choose how often you're going to train, you can choose when you go to bed, even if people are saying no or what you're doing, yada yada. So once I kind of came to to that mindset shift, everything else got a little bit easier and everything just improved from there. The symptoms, you just learn to manage them. Like I have a regular cycle now, everything's under control, but you just got to keep an eye on regulating yourself. And I think that's the biggest part of PMOS, but some women don't want to think about that stuff straight away because it's too triggering for them. But yeah, I went off on a massive tangent then.
No, I love it. I would love to also get how you did with 5 tips with your nutrition that's really helped. I'd love to get the same from an exercise and fitness perspective because, as you said at the start, it's a chronic stress inflammation. And often one thing that, again, not just with PMOS, but also just in general for women, we go to that typical more is more situation when just doing more or trying to train more or do more cardio actually just makes things worse. And especially when we're talking about chronic inflammation, the more is not going to help you.
No, it literally exacerbates the whole thing and makes it worse. I'd say main ones are avoiding overtraining. Obviously, it's kind of there and play it black and white, isn't it? When you're training, the inflammation that comes in recovery, normal, we want that. But if you're overtraining and lacking proper recovery, it's just going to build up and people burn out and then crash and stop doing everything altogether. Huge emphasis on strength training and more of like the lower impact stuff helps. Again, it's just an overall reducing inflammation standpoint. You're going to be inflamed post training to help with recovery. Your body does that. But prioritizing strength training over anything else. Your cardio very much based on low, steady state, just not getting your heart rate too elevated for long periods of time, like high intensity stuff does, which is a bit of a chronic stress in itself. Everyone's individual with that. I've had some women that can do a bit of HIIT, but they've usually got all the other stuff really locked in first. So not overtraining, strength training over anything else. High intensity stuff, again, individual, but I'd avoid it altogether and keep it to low intensity, steady state stuff.
Linking nutrition and fitness together. Obviously, for a lot of people, we would suggest doing a high carb pre-workout snack. Is there something that you would say works better for people with PMOS that helps not have that crash, or a different kind of schedule around fueling that still gives them that energy for their training, but it's not going to give them the post crash?
Yeah, so the research now is leaning more towards if you're half an hour from training and you haven't eaten 2-3 hours before with PCOS, something like a piece of fruit, more whole food based carb, like we're mainly only looking at like fruit there. You can still half an hour before going train and you're going to utilize it for training. But for the women that train later on in the evening time or early, super early in the morning, I say their last meal to have some sort of complex carbon that's going to digest really slowly and not going into the gym session. Like the corn thins, banana, honey vibe, I'm here for, but trying to pair it with something protein based if you can an hour before training. And if they're training late at night, or early in the morning, I would say make sure your dinner's just got like some sweet potato in or brown rice or quinoa, and then flip it to the evening time. Just trying to pair, either you have like a lighter dinner, but I always pair the proteins and some sort of fiber with the corn thin snack, for example. I'm just using that as an example. And if it's half an hour before, I'll say to someone, yeah, you can have an apple or something's going to digest fast so you can go and train it. But yeah, not having naked carbs. Like a yogurt bowl's a good one of mine. I like doing that myself, or even I'll just have a shake and a piece of fruit as a pre-workout, just so then you're slowing down the digestion of it. There's more research being done on it now, but it's a bit of depends on the individual and how hard they train. If you're going in and training hard, I would say prioritize something that's pre-workout based if you're not eating like an hour before. Would I say for a beginner that's starting that they need to like focus on pre and post workout nutrition? Probably not. It's not to say going in fasted at all. I'm not saying that. It's just whilst you're maybe carrying a bit more body fat initially in the start of your journey, you've got that there to use. But if your body's in a state of stress, and again with the training with the PMOS ladies, I always get them to do at least 1 or 2 warm-up sets, and I extend their rest periods just to again keep the stress down. There's still stress obviously from the training itself, but the sessions are only like 4 or 5 exercises. I'll do max 5 for PMOS. I was doing like 10 exercises for leg day, and then once we went down to 4 or 5, because your body's in this fight or flight state anyway, 4 or 5 was manageable for me to keep that intensity, and then I wasn't absolutely burning myself out. You can still train really hard. Even now, I'd only do 4 exercises on leg day because it's just enough for me. I can generate the intensity that I need. I can progress in my lifts, but I'm not absolutely burning myself into the ground because my body's not in a state to get to that level and recover properly, especially with how much I would want to train. So yeah, again, went off on a tangent there.
I think that's just kind of a good blanket statement for most people, though. It's not, even with strength training, it's not even more is better a lot of the time. Like doing workouts, I used to do the exact same, and I feel like again, it's just like a rite of passage almost that we all go through
Yeah.
phases of spending like 2-3 hours in the gym trying to smash out 10 different exercises just to be like, I actually can't lift anything for my last 3 exercises because my whole body is so fatigued. But it's the same kind of thing. It's not always just about adding extra things or doing more. It's actually about the intention behind what you're doing. If you can lift heavier, actually push yourself, challenge, train to almost failure in 4 exercises, you're going to be doing way more for your physique and for your muscle building than if you're like half-assing 10 exercises anyway.
Yeah, fully. I love doing that with some of the girlies that we have joined that come and do 10 exercises and want to grow the glutes. I'm like, just trust me for 8 weeks with 4. And they're like, what? Cat? And I'm like, no, trust me. And then they're like, oh, okay, I get it now. Because you can
Yeah.
recover better. You're way more intentional throughout 4 exercises than 10. Your mental capacity is higher throughout the whole session. Then instead of thinking, oh, I've got like 1 exercise, I've got 9 to go.
Yeah.
And when you're training heavy, you've got to warm up properly. I speak to so many girls that don't do any warm-up sets and don't take the time to build up to it. When you're working a challenging weight, you can't just jump straight into them. You won't be able to progress properly. It just wouldn't be efficient. So yeah, quality over quantity, especially for glute gains. You need to train heavy and intentionally and hard and progressing.
I think that's why a lot of girls do like 10 exercises. It's either that or avoid, the heavy and pushing to that limit because, oh, I'll choose this hard instead of that hard,
Mhm.
but which one actually gets you the results? Because I know I have done, like, we've all done it. It's like you said, it's a rite of passage, but at the same time, you don't have the wits about you to actually be able to push hard. I know when I was going through my gut health era, of course, lowering inflammation again is so important. So I was only doing 2 sets. And that I just went balls to the wall and just gave it my all because I was like, I've only got 2. Like 3 is just mentally that little bit harder. Whereas you got 2, I'm like, I'm literally going to just destroy myself and see how hard I can push. And that is what's not only going to get you results, but then yes, you're pushing as hard. You can recover easier from that, and then the results come from that instead of, like you said before, so much inflammation that you've got to recover from instead of just like the intentional micro tears that we want in the right areas. Instead of burning calories and trying to do more, like you both said, the intention, the quality, and that is where you'll actually get the result. I know you're so big on mindfulness and helping reduce your stress. Tell us the key components that you integrate in your life and you would recommend for PMOS or everyone essentially.
This is my favorite topic because it's like with this whole journey myself. And let's start with the start of the day. So I'm a huge advocate for bookending your day. I love that phrase. I think that how you start your day and how you end your day, you need to have a chapter that starts it and a chapter that ends it. And those chapters being really focused on emotional regulation. So a big thing for me in the morning time, and it's different for everyone. And when I say the word meditation, journaling, all it is just bringing your awareness to where you're actually at. It doesn't need to be lighting a load of candles, wearing a robe and what people do on Instagram. I think that puts so many women off. I don't have time. I've got to get up for work. I've got my kids or whatever. But I'm like, no, just taking 5 minutes to even just think about your breath, have some water, just not going straight on your screen. Typically with PMOS, and all of us anyway, we tend to rush straight into the day and thinking about other people or work or you've got to do X, Y, Z and not checking in with yourself. So I'm huge on a morning routine for me includes 5 to up to 20-minute meditation. It can be different with every day depending on where I'm at. And the kind of evening time, the same again, not meditation, but I will make sure that I have half an hour of a proper routine, not going on my screen. I'm big into reading. Again, that's different for everyone. It's just a time for you to switch off mentally. You've been go, go, go all day. And it's the same with the morning time, just trying to find that state of where you actually are. Some women find that sentence really hard and initially they're like, what does that mean? Even just somewhere to start with is just thinking about your breath and even start with 3 things they're grateful for. So the bookending your day is a big one for me and including that into I'll say social media screen time. I love that we have that on the daily habits for the clients because it's big. You can't be going straight on your phone and you shouldn't be going to bed off the back of your phone. I don't do that ever now. I haven't for many years. Another really important thing for me is that I'll listen to my body. Sometimes I might have planned to train and I'll wake up and maybe not feel ideal. Sometimes with PMOS I get really bad bloating or I can feel a bit like lower in general. So I won't train and I'll go for a walk outside. And I think sometimes the plan that you have, which I'm here for, having structure, changes on what your body needs. So again, like it all ties into giving your body what it needs and the basics first. But the big one for me in my PMOS journey that I think really helps the symptoms is honouring how I'm at each day, which is why that morning routine with just checking in with where you're at makes a big difference. Sometimes a 10-minute rule, like go if you still feel like shit after 10 minutes, then leave, or you crack on and usually feel a little bit better. But it's just being in tune with where your body's at, because it's something that never really goes away, PMOS. There's no cure for it. I always say to visualize holding hands with your body, and some clients are like, what are you on about? You're working with it to hold its hand and be like, right, okay, this is what we're going to do together. But it's mind, body, soul all in one. If you're externally smashing your body to bits and hope that it's going to help this disease especially, it's not going to work. But yeah, I would say there's my main thing. The daily check-in with yourself. I said it actually the other day to a client on She Thrives. Take 3 breaths when you're feeling overwhelmed. She's a high-end hotel manager, so you wouldn't have a clue that she was struggling with PMOS and the symptoms. But it's helping her now because she's like, actually, I didn't go to the gym today, or I went for a walk instead, or I went and had my lunch because I was pushing it back for meetings and I need to go and eat. They're the things that really improve PMOS symptoms, because again, you're trying to just work with chronic stress. It's not going anywhere. It's like a balancing act all the time. And yeah, it's a journey and one you kind of have to just embrace. Like mine's obviously genetic, a little bit of it, because it's in my family, but your environment really matters, and the right support and stress management in general comes from you prioritizing yourself.
It's so nice to hear that those things are so important for every single human being as well, because the reality is to look after your body, regardless of whether you have, PMOS or any other kind of condition. You actually have to look after your body because it is such a beautiful gift, and knowing how to do that and doing it from a place of love rather than punishment will always get you so much further. So I know I've spoken to so many people like, I'm just scared that I'll never get results because I have PCOS. What would you say to that person?
That I'm proof that you can. And I've worked with hundreds of women now over the last 8 years that are evidence that you can. Your language matters, and there is a way of working with your body, starting from the basics with where you're at.
Absolutely. I think as well, knowing that body is a forever ongoing journey. The progress never stops. Just like you're never going to have to stop brushing your teeth. You're never going to have to stop having sleep every single day. You're never going to have to stop eating. Those things are normal, but we need to create the normality of moving your body, of nourishing your body, of taking care of it, checking in with yourself and managing your stress. Those are also basic human needs. And when you do that, life, your body, your mind, like you said, mind, body, soul, all comes together and can actually thrive. So I think it's one of those things, the progress never stops. Managing yourself, managing your body, your symptoms, you get to do that. That is a blessing to be able to do, and it makes you feel so much better rather than just kind of going, it's too hard, it's impossible, I can't do it, and just settling for where you're at and then living the rest of your life in a body that makes you feel horrible, having the symptoms that keep coming up and getting worse. There are so many people out there that is proof that it's possible. Don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to fail forward, because life's too short not to. And living in that state of mind and living in that negative loop, negative environment, negative body, why would you want to be that and give up entirely when you can actually have something that's so much better? And I love the way that you articulate it, because it's one of those things that I think so many people are so quick to push aside and put the blame on. And unfortunately, the reality of how doctors and the pharmaceutical industry tell us that this is the only way, but it's not. And I hate that. I want to put a stand to that, because it's so not true.
I purposefully do the opposite of what doctors tell me.
Shev mentioned in a podcast not too long ago, and I actually did research behind it. I'm pretty sure it's a 30-minute lecture. That's it.
Right.
When doctors go into university, they learn 30 minutes of nutrition. I'm like, we could talk for hundreds of hours on nutrition and what we know about it, but they get taught 30 minutes with that knowledge and what they're telling you to do. Why would you listen? It's crazy, but people don't know that. And it's just the way that we've been conditioned to believe. Unless you challenge the thought process, unless you challenge your beliefs, there's no way of knowing that there is another option. That is just how we've been conditioned. So totally makes sense. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom. We love hearing your story, and it's so nice to hear from somebody that actually has gone through it, somebody that's actually gone through the trenches and struggled and knows what it's like to live with PMOS on a daily basis. So I think so many people will really value hearing that from you, and hopefully they take note and make those changes in their life as well. So thank you so much. And for all our listeners, if you enjoyed this podcast and want to know more about the PMOS or anything like that, we'll pop Kat's Instagram, all her contacts in the show notes below. If you have someone that has PMOS or even that doesn't and wants to do better for themselves and live a more full life, then please share this with them. Rate the podcast. It takes 10 seconds and it means the world to us because it allows us to continue making these episodes and sharing more wisdom to help you guys live life to the fullest. Thank you for listening, and we will see you guys in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.